Motion to resume the public session. Ms. Littlewood, Ms. Unson, all in favor? The vote is unanimous. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Good evening, everyone. GC Pride Awards.
All right. Good evening, President Potensky, Superintendent Daly, and the Gates Chili Board of Education. My name's Dan Zanowski. I'm the principal at Walt Disney Elementary, and I am honored to be here tonight to recognize one of our amazing first graders. I want to tell you a story about Miss Journey Campbell and her family and how we turned an event that we now call the COVID shutdown into an amazing learning opportunity and now an international event. So during the shutdown, Journey, like many of our other students, were trying to learn and trying to cope with their new normal. She found that writing was a great outlet for her, and they tried to capitalize on this. She wrote so much, her parents and family started to encourage her to write books. She was in kindergarten. She wrote books, and then her family said, let's capture this, and they started their own publishing company called Campbell Creations. Miss Journey is now a first grader at Walt Disney Elementary, and she is the author of 4 published books. The most recent book was formally published in August of 2022. Her family had an amazing event to release the book at the Chili Recreation Center, and the book was titled, My Friends Are Special. The message in this book, in Miss Journey, I did ask for permission to encapsulate it this way, is that all of our friends have unique differences, and all of our friends have special talents that contribute to the amazing society that we live in when we all work together. So that was her 4th book, and now the family's company, the publishing company, Campbell Creations, they have partnered with schools overseas in Africa, in Ghana specifically, to give these books to schools. And accompanying the books are specific workbooks aligned to Journey's public works to help the educational programs overseas. So if you can't tell, I am so proud of this Walt Disney first grader and this family from Walt Disney Elementary. I would like to take a second to honor them. If you would join me in a round of applause for our kiddos and our family. All right, kiddo, here's your GC Pride Award, and on behalf of all of us here at Walt Disney and the school district, we are so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Are you guys okay if Journey says a couple words?
Absolutely.
Okay. I would want to thank Dr. Z for giving me my award, and I would want to thank my teachers, and I would like to thank my mom and dad for helping me make my book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Agenda changes?
Yes, we had additions to personnel, audit, and board goals and norms.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to board president comments. First of all, I want to say, wow, Journey's story was absolutely amazing and blew me away. Fantastic. I attended homecoming with Carrie and a few other board members. It was great to see everybody out. It was a wonderful night. See everybody enjoy the evening, the football and family. It was actually outstanding. It was great to see the Gates Chi inductees and hear about their wonderful journey post-graduating Gates Chi and hear how they shared their experience, their learning experience, and how they were able to capitalize on that in their future lives and share that with our students. And I did want to say there was one board member that was incognito. I won't name names, but she did a really great job. There was 2 other board members that didn't recognize her for a while. Just saying, Ms. Littlewood. Good job. And then Frank and I also attended a NISBA Board Leadership Conference. Just wanted to share that this is a great conference for anybody that's thinking about board leadership. There was attendance from across the state, and the agenda and curriculum for the conference was really good. It's a great learning experience. Moving on, points of interest. Carrie, Ms. Guys?
All right. Attended homecoming, as Jeff said. It was really nice to see all the people back on campus. The band looked amazing. Couple boys modified volleyball matches. Very impressed with the sportsmanship of the middle school boys team. They're very encouraging of each other. Just nice to watch. Of the other team, they just look like they're having fun. Also attended the fundraiser for Sticky Lips for the class of 2023, which was a fantastic fundraiser to grab dinner at a busy day.
Ms. Coffey?
We attended the Brasser Meet the Parent Night, which is always a great event to see all the different families that are there, to see the teachers, all of the different providers set up throughout the gym, so that way we can access people, we really work in classrooms, so that was a great event. And again, on the modified side, spending some time at the modified soccer game, enjoying those evenings. It was fun and good to see all the kids and their families there.
Thank you very much. Ms. Unson?
I attended the Walt Disney PTO meeting, and we had 4 additional people who joined us, so that was a bright spot for us.
Thank you. Any other points of interest? Okay, moving on. Report of meetings. Ms. Kies?
We had Information Exchange Committee meeting a couple weeks ago, really focused on school safety and mental health. And when I heard that ahead of time, I was expecting, ways to implement security features at the door, but it was really more of identifying our kids who are in different levels of need and crisis in the buildings, and how to do a better job intervening sooner and getting families connected with resources in the community. It's very helpful.
Thank you very much. Any other report of meetings? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to visitor comments. The Gates Chi Central School District Board of Education invites public comment at this time. Speakers may not yield their time to another speaker. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. We ask that individuals state their name and address prior to comments and utilize the podium and microphone to address the board. Although the board will not respond directly to individual comments at this time, items brought to the attention of the board may be taken under consideration for future response or action. In order to comply with the laws related to confidentiality, we ask that issues related to specific school district personnel or students be brought to the attention of the superintendent of schools privately. The board reserves the right to terminate a speaker's comments if his or her comments are in excess of 3 minutes, repetitive, or are not appropriate for discussion in an open public forum. Charles Johnson.
How you guys doing?
Great, thank you.
It's been a while, so I wanted to first say I think it's cool to have a GC graduate do the artwork for the characters for all the schools. Been dying to kind of just say that. That's awesome. Anyways, this book right here that you guys send out, I was wondering if next year if we can actually put all the dates instead of just the dates for the school season. Because I know in the summertime you guys still meet up. And it's not here, I mean, it's on the website, but it would be a lot easier for the other parents to know that you guys still meet up in the summertime. Also looking in here too, because I am a gardener, pesticides, we don't need to be putting down pesticides just because it's a bee killer. I can get an affidavit from my beekeeper if it takes that to just kind of help encourage that we don't need to be spending money on pesticides. I know it's something silly, but every penny helps. And if we can save the bee population, that would be great. We need it. And if anyone checked on the electric billboards, that we could have on 490, something that we can bring in money for advertising, anything. And I think my last two things is if my book selections, if that made it through, I don't know how to find that out. If the librarian said, yeah, let's go ahead and invest in the Tuttle twins and let the kids kind of learn. And the last thing is I happen to be skimming through Facebook and notice I guess there's still issues with the bathrooms. I don't know if that's something that you guys have been taking into consideration, because that seems to be an ongoing issue every year. And that's it. That's all.
Thank you very much. John, I'm going to try your last name. Please correct me. Magera? Majira? That's it. Okay.
Hi, my name is John Majera. I teach at Paul Road, and I live at 6393 Chilai Center Road. And let's see. I want to thank you for giving me. I'm retiring. I think it's in the minutes this evening. Thank you. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to teach in this district and coach for almost 20 years. Under unique circumstances, I have retired on September 15th, but I'll be continuing to teach till the end of the school year. And the administration, the teachers, students, support staff, and parents are second to none. I've truly enjoyed my time here, and I think I've had more fun than the students at times. I'm hoping you hear lots of positive comments about the school and community, and I just want to give you one more. It's a very, very tight community, and I don't know how I got in not being an alumni or Italian, okay? They're awesome, and they put students number one. Students are always put number one, no matter what it is. If the student needs help, there's always somebody to turn to. You're not out on an island by yourself. And I'm going to rip this up and tell you one of the reasons I'm really here. Over 10 years ago, I had cancer, and the school backed me. They were super, super supportive. And I had to take about a month off, and it took about, and when I was coming back, I came back in October. And Peter Hentz at the time was my principal. And so when I came back, I was a little beat up from the surgery, but still I wanted to get back. I didn't want to be home. And so I came in, and the sub was there for about 4 weeks. Okay? So then the fifth week, when I came back, maybe the sixth week, I walked in, and the sub was still there. I go, hey, what are you doing here? And he goes, they told me to stay. So I went down to see Peter. I go, Peter, is the sub still here? I'm here. Did you know I was coming back? He goes, I never coming back. If you need a break, take a break. And I was just blown away with that. They kept the sub there for a week just in case I needed it. Now, I didn't take a break, probably too proud, and I went to Peter after that week and I said, can we keep this sub here for the rest of the year? It's a great district, and I'm very proud to have worked here for almost 20 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and congratulations on your milestone.
Thank you very much.
Moving on. High school music trip. Reports.
Whoops.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I didn't realize it was a report. Actually, I thought it was a discussion item. I'm here to answer questions if you have any of the materials already.
Yeah, just
Sure. So This, as we've been away from trips for several years because the world imploded and our New York City trip was canceled in 2019, we've decided that we need to get back to a larger trip as recruitment, retention, and a little bit of a reward for the kids that have stuck it out for this long. And so we'd like to go back to Disney in April. It's the week, I think it's the week after break or before break. I'm not sure when the break is. It's the 20th through the 24th. The issue is that those of you who have been on the board for some time and been involved with the district know that we take great pride in meticulously planning our trips and planning them very far in advance. Typically, April of the year before a travel is when we start to put all those pieces in place. Because of COVID and supply issues and all of those other things of the world right now, we're unable still to get pricing for April on the airlines. We would like to fly on Southwest because our bags go free. That means an instrument and a piece of luggage. And we can all be on one plane. The current quote that we have is for JetBlue. We're anticipating Southwest's pricing to come out in the next couple of weeks. In using a $500 airfare allotment, we're about $960 per student quad occupancy. That is higher than any trip that we've ever taken. We tried really hard to get it under $1,000. The first quote that we got was around $1,600. Then it went to $1,400. And then we had a former band parent and a current district employee, Teresa Bala, contact us and say, hey, I hear you're thinking about going to Disney. Let me plan the trip. And so she was able to get amazing pricing. I don't know how she does it. But we're at $960 right now, and we're proposing that knowing that that will be the maximum that any student will pay. We have the Bottle and Can Drive this coming Saturday. Excuse me. We have the Bottle and Can Drive. There are many fundraisers planned throughout the year, coffee sales, snack sales. We're not doing the fruit sale this year, but we'll do the Garden Factory sale. There are group and individual fundraisers in addition to some of the funds from previous Bottle and Can Drives that we weren't able to use because we didn't go anywhere. The Student Activities Fund for the marching band, when we get paid from parades, that is around $15,000. That will all go towards this trip. And we will do everything that we can to try and make this as affordable as we can to give the opportunity to everybody that wants to go. As usual, the trip is not mandatory, but we want to encourage as many students to go as we can because, as you know, those of you that have been on the trip or previous trips, the Disney experience is not to be missed. We did look into busing. I can tell you that 23 hours on a bus gets a little less attractive in your 50s. And we also lose 2 days of being there when it takes 2 days to get there. Excuse me. So I know there are currently in this proposal a lot of loose ends and a lot of things we still don't know, but we're asking for the approval to go, and I guess trusting us that with our track record and tradition of going on trips and the way that we plan travel, that we're going to do everything we can to button those things up and get that price down.
Any questions, discussion? Ms. Guys?
You're always welcome, by all means. Yes.
So I'm not going to ask that same question.
Sure.
But I did want to say I did chaperone in one trip a long time ago, and I concur with Mr. Welch. Buses, 23 hours. I needed a chiropractor appointment upon arrival when I returned. So I do appreciate the flying option, and I support the effort. Mr. Welch and his team does a great job planning and taking care of the kids. Mr. Moscato?
Just a question about the fundraising.
Sure.
Are we setting an individual quota for each student to raise? Are we expecting them to raise $300, whatever?
No, the way that we've been operating fundraising over the past few years is we set the price of the trip, and then there are some fundraisers that go to the collective general fund that goes to everybody who has participated, like the Bottle and Can Drive. In order to have $12,000 raised that we've done in the past in that one day of work, well, that one day of work, it really takes all hands on deck, and it's impossible to sort of divide that by the people. And well, I was here for an hour, and I was here for 6 hours. So there are some specific fundraisers that individually, like the snack, I think that's coffee, beverage, I forget what they actually call that, but it sort of grew out of the fruit sale, and we started selling coffee and cakes, chocolates, and things like that. That goes to the individual. Some of them are earmarked specifically for the group that everyone will participate in, and some, like I said, are kept track of as individual credits.
Okay.
Other questions? And if a student doesn't meet their goal, then they have to pay the difference, correct?
Yeah, as I said, so there's no real goal. So some parents we've had in the past, here's the shooting match, boom, here, we'll write you a check for $960. Here you go, my kid's going. We understand that there are frequently, and as we have this year, students who are in both band and chorus and siblings, multiples in families. It's a pricey trip, and so we understand that. We'll do everything we can to try and help that out. The Music Boosters 2 years ago actually also started a fund for assistance, those students who are in need of financial assistance to go on the trip. Not a lot in that because it just started a couple of years ago, but there is some assistance available for students who can prove their financial need.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
Yeah, that as a parent that's gone on these trips, they are always very welcome here. I'm impressed with the plan and how busy they keep the kids moving.
Downtime is the enemy.
And the kids don't sleep at night at all.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Finance and Facility Audit Report.
That didn't work. Good evening, Mr. Potensky, Mr. Moscato, Mr. Daly, distinguished Board of Education members. I'm Mitch Ball, the Assistant Superintendent for Business, and I'm here to give the Finance Facility and Audit Committee report. So we had the meeting on September 12th. In that meeting, we talked about investing and how we've been able to do some exploration of our liquidity in order to invest in as efficient as a way as possible. And Mrs. Sanford will talk about that when we give our business office report later today, but it's been very advantageous. We talked about My School Bucks and the transition to that new platform for fees relating to student meals and other activities. We talked about the healthcare worker bonus, noting that we don't have enough information right now to determine which employees will receive the healthcare worker bonus, but we did talk a little bit about what it might look like. We talked about fund balance and reserve allocations. We talked about the electric buses and the energy savings that's anticipated with the new electric buses, as well as how they've been performing to date. We talked about the budget calendar that's on the agenda for approval tonight for the 23-24 school year. In addition to that, we discussed the independent audit report. Christy Beach from EFPR Group came in, our independent auditor, and gave a report of the audit, noting that the audit was a clean audit and that the staff, particularly Mrs. Sanford, our treasurer, district treasurer, did a great job in preparing documents and information for the auditor. We talked about the internal audit. Again, we had our auditor in, this one from Freed Matzik, Kathleen Bartlett, and she talked about how we performed as well, noting some areas where we could do a little bit of improvement from an operational perspective, noting that all of those recommendations had been administered. We talked about the second quarter claims audit and discussed the findings. We talked about the extra classroom activity account and just talked a little bit with the committee about what was in that audit report. We talked in terms of facilities about the summer projects, talked a little bit about some progress and space changes that occurred in the district during the summer months and some other projects that the facilities team did with great fidelity to what we were expecting. kudos to them overall. We talked about the $68 million capital project and the final portions of Phase 1.5 that are being wrapped up as we speak, with an anticipated completion date by the end of December so that we can submit reports to the state. We talked about the emergency roof project. That project is complete, so we're working on the final paperwork for the roof that tore off of the library during the windstorm in, what was that, about 6-7 months ago now. And so that project's complete, and we anticipate getting that paperwork submitted to the state. We discussed the $45.5 million capital project estimate. We did have discussions about the fact that CPI continues to rise significantly. The Feds continue to increase interest rates, and we anticipate at least 2 more interest rate hikes over the next number of months. And we talked a little bit about how that could impact project estimation. As you know, we had an authorization for $45.5 million, so we talked a little bit about how all of these changes in the labor and the market in general may impact what work we can or can't actually do in this project. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation. So we're really going to have to keep an eye on the market to determine if the market goes up or if it starts to dip with the interest rate changes. How will that impact bidding a year and a half from now? Because, again, we're not going to be bidding for quite some time because we're still very early in the process. We talked a little bit about furniture replacement, noting that we're now tracking furniture through Master Library. So just talk a little bit about how we're going through that process, having tagged nearly 22,000 pieces of furniture in the district so that we can create an efficient and reliable replacement plan for classroom and other furniture. We talked about the Safety and Security Task Force. That will again be talked about in the report this evening. And that was the entirety of the meeting. Any questions?
Ms.
Yes.
Keyes?
No question, I just have clarification. Back to the school bucks. I know I'm beating that drum a lot, but
Yeah.
I just want to clarify to anybody watching at home or here, as often as we can get that message out, that you can avoid the fees by sending money with your student to school or mailing it to the nutrition department?
Correct. Yep. And you can, obviously, we would prefer that you don't mail cash, that you mail checks or money orders, and you can have your student bring in cash or check as well.
And any remaining cash will go into their account. It wouldn't be like I'm just paying for one lunch and get money back.
Correct.
Into their account.
So you can put, $100 on the account if a parent or guardian chooses. They can put a good chunk of money on there, and it will be continued to be used by the student until it's drawn down. At which point, the school nutrition department will let parents know that their accounts are getting low.
If parents were to send them, like with littler kids, to the main office, will they know what to do and pass them on?
The main office would absolutely know what to do. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Again, good evening. I would like to. I'm back. Okay. Good evening. I'm here to present the business and finance report. Alongside me, if you guys would come on up, I have Mrs. Sally Sanford, our district treasurer, and Mrs. Anna Lamb, our assistant school business administrator. Anna, just a point of information, Mrs. Lamb completed her SDBL, her school district business leader certification program at SUNY Brockport, and so her title has changed. Although her job is the same, we've changed her title to an administrator title because she's now received that administrative certification. And so her title is a little different. Last year it was supervisor of payroll, benefits, and budgeting. I hope I got that right. And so, she's doing the same work, but has a new title because she's completed her certification. So kudos to Mrs. Lamb for completing that program. With that being said, we do anticipate this presentation will be done in approximately 45 to 50 minutes. So if you could just settle in, here we go. So again, a quick overview. We went over this last year. This is, what falls under kind of the business and operations front. But what's important to note is tonight we're just talking about this portion, which is the business office portion. Later in the school year, you'll have presentations from the Director of Facilities, the Director of Transportation, and the Director of School Nutrition. So although there's some crossover in the presentation tonight, the majority of what we talk about will be more on the business and finance front. Just want to start by highlighting some staff changes. We've had some turnover and changes in the department. The administrative assistant to the department, Miranda Beyer, has now moved into a new, or not a new position, an empty position, a position that we hadn't filled for probably over a year, called Computer Application Specialist. She'll be helping us transition into some other areas within Frontline, specifically Frontline Central. Eventually, she'll be helping manage WinCap and some other platforms as well. Linda Saracini was the secretary over at Walt Disney Elementary School. She is now the administrative assistant to myself in the department. Clara Scardino replaced another benefits clerk that we had, or a benefits specialist, I should say. She has experience. She has over 26 years of experience as a benefits clerk in another district in Monroe County. And she has been fantastic, incredibly good at her job, and we'll be talking a little bit about some of the work that she's done in a few minutes. And then Jessica Latone, she was working at the front desk. I don't know if you remember her as, one of our staff who works and helps greet people and does some work for the office up front. She's now the deputy treasurer / tax collector for the district, and she's also doing an incredible job, and we're very happy to have her in that position. So again, this is the business office team, Mrs. Lamb and Mrs. Sanford. Generally speaking, the finance department reports to Mrs. Sanford. The payroll and benefits department reports to Anna Lamb, and she also helps with budgeting as well. So any questions about the department in general?
No, sir.
Okay, so finance, on the finance side, which is Mrs. Sanford, the finance team covers accounting, accounts receivable, all of those areas that you see there. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Sanford, and she's going to highlight a couple of things that occurred over the last year and talk a little bit about what's going on in the department. You want me to do it? I will.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ball. So we're going to start with the first, everyone's favorite, audit. To make the word a little bit less scary, I wanted to work with our new independent auditors this year to make the report user-friendly. So someone from the community or that isn't familiar with finance can read the report and see where the district is at a quick glance, a one look, and something easier to understand. So those reports came out great, and we had to adapt to 2 new GASB requirements this year. Our internal auditor helped us create written processes for everyone's job duties, and then they also audited those processes and procedures to see where any weak links existed and where we could improve. On the banking and investment side, we're starting to move to ACH to replace those paper checks and reduce the labor hours, reducing mailing, folding, and also clearing any outstanding checks on our bank reconciliations. The virtual card is upcoming also to use as an alternative method of payment for the district to earn a rebate on and also reduce the risk of fraud. Moving to My School Bucks, which is a BOCE-able cost to track student fees. A lot of fundraisers noticed a decline in their participation because of the acceptable forms of payment at the district. So we are opening these up to tickets, fundraisers, and also other student fees. The one-page treasurer's report for the Board of Education, we also wanted to be able to look at that one-page report. Where is the district's cash position at the month end, one page, and simplify those bank accounts for you. So not only does that save my time, but it saves the reader time. We did do an RFP for banking services. Tompkins Bank was the successful bidder on that, and it did save $171,000 over our previous institution. We were also able to save on credit card transactions, which were reduced by almost a third. We added U.S. Treasury bills as an investment option versus CDs, your money markets. And those yields are up 4% now versus just 1% 6 months ago. So with the closing of the $68 million project and the opening of the $45.5 million project, we kind of look at the liquidity factor right now and decide where the amount of time is and how much we can invest on that. And the financial analysis. We're working with RG Tims Incorporated to collect the last previous 5 years of data of the district. And with that data, Mr. Tims and his team will be creating a long-range financial picture. So it's easier for Dr. Ball and yourselves to make a decision on where the district is headed. And we're going to use those also for fiscal guidance. That's still in the analytical stage, and we're excited for those results to be revealed soon. We are still using Forecast 5 in several areas. Not only does Forecast 5 let us compare financial data with our peers, but it also helps us compare enrollment with our peers, student performance, staffing, and salary. So it's a very useful tool, and we're excited to be able to continue to use that as part of one of our resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanford. Okay. Now I'll briefly, well, I won't. I'll just turn it over to Mrs. Lamb. These are the areas that payroll, benefits, and budgeting cover. At this point, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Lamb to give a couple of highlights.
Good evening. The first thing we're going to talk about is just payroll overall. We kind of took some numbers this year just to give you guys an idea of how much work actually goes through the business office and especially the payroll department. We have last year we had 1198. That's 1,200 people that one person's been processing. So that's quite a few people. We had actual checks of 639 and direct deposits of 22,317. So at this year, we are down to 6 checks so far this year. We all talked about and we want to get rid of actual paper checks. We've had a couple issues. We were concerned, and it's just a lot. I think it's responsible to get rid of some of the paper. So yes, so that's been huge. As you can see, we have almost $50 million just in salaries, so that's a big chunk of our budget. Just to give you an idea of where it falls. I guess Mitch wants me to hurry up. Next one is WinCap Web. We're talking about migrations of electronic timesheets. Last year we had just custodial maintenance and transportation. We worked on, our goal was to have school nutrition and also school-related professionals up and running, and they are. Next year, or this year, we are hoping to have any kind of extra, let's say, any additional pay items, let's say curriculum or, yellow jackets or whatever it may be. If we can flow everything through there, it's less paper for us to have to deal with and less for Cindy to actually have to do, which is huge. Also with WinCap Web, which is part of our financial system, it's one of the other modules, it allows them to view their pay stubs so we don't have to print any of the direct deposits. They can also look at their demographics and their deductions. On that, they can make edits. There's certain fields we are not allowing them to edit. Obviously, then it goes through one of us and we post it for that change. But we also do the salary notices, so it alleviates all that paper that's going out. In regards to what Mitch said, or Dr. Ball said earlier, Clara's been amazing. I've known her for 25 years, and she's been great. And when I saw her in Wegmans, I'm like, Clara, you got to come work at Gates. I said, you have to do this. She goes, what do you mean? I said, we need you. And she's done a phenomenal job. At this point, there are 774 active employees on benefits and 611 retirees. 16, she did a huge audit. She basically went through each person, and she discovered that 16 members who were deceased were still on our insurance. She actually went in, called Excelis, and we got all that money back, which has been huge. She ended up getting over $100,000, and now she's working on the active employees, and she's great. So I gave her kudos earlier today because of it. So she's doing a great job. So that's on that one. The retiree billing, last year's goal was to get rid of direct invoicing. So and I think we've done a pretty good job. As you can see, the numbers here for 2021 to 2022, we had 48% last year, and this year so far we're at 70%. So we are, with doing that, we have our AR down to $2,700. So that's made a huge impact because in prior years we've had quite a large of accounts receivable out there just because of the retiree billing. So I think that's everything, if I'm not mistaken.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, what I will say is a big focus of both finance and payroll and benefits, as you can see, has been trying to become more efficient in the operation that we have here. And so we're trying to use systems and processes to look for ways to save or recoup funds to get more out of our investments. And so major kudos to these two and everybody who works in their area or their purview. They've done a fantastic job of finding ways to be more efficient. With that said, these are some other areas that the business office covers. A few quick other highlights, capital project management. The two most recent things are the parking lot, which is nearly complete, and the professional learning center, which is ongoing. We do anticipate the professional learning center, which is the old band room, will be complete before the end of 2022, and hope to be in there no later than early January, with the intention that that'll be a professional learning center, and it will also be an area that the board can host board meetings in. So that project's nearly complete. The $45.5 million project, we're currently developing plans for phase one. If you'll recall, the project's in 2 phases. Collaborating with stakeholders, we're having regular monthly, if not more, stakeholder meetings with members of our staff in various departments to look at the spaces and design them in a way that meets the programmatic needs. And once that portion's done, then we'll submit paperwork to the New York State Education Department, hopefully in March, and then from there it'll be 6 to 8 months, hopefully before, hopefully it's not more than that, before the New York State Education Department approves those designs, and then we can move to bidding. So again, we're quite a ways off from bidding, so we don't exactly know where that market's going to be at that time. Emergency project update, the roof replacement at the high school. There was $2 million in expense. As you can see, there's a picture. It's a little bright up there, but if you could see it, and having been on the roof myself, the roof was in pretty rough shape to start, and then the windstorm came and took off a good portion of the roof, so we had to replace the sections that you can see in the bottom left there. And that project is complete, and it will be aided over 15 years by New York State Education Department. So a good portion of the high school roofs are now replaced. Safety and Security Task Force, just wanted to briefly mention that in light of things happening across the nation in terms of various tragedies, frankly, we've determined that it's important for us to be doing a really close and deep dive, not because there's any major issues, but because it's really important to be looking at how do we continually improve our measures here in the district. And so before we had the Safety and Security Committee, and so that committee would meet quarterly in the district, and really it was an opportunity to communicate what was going on in terms of safety and security and maybe share some information. This separate Safety and Security Task Force is a task force that will look very closely at what's going on in the district in terms of processes, procedures, hard measures relating to safety and security, and really say, what more can we be doing? What trainings can we turn out to staff? Are there tabletop drills we can be doing, and what might those look like? And so really it's a working group to try and look at the district holistically to see what can be done throughout the district. There's 13 members. There's representation from every single building, and we meet monthly currently. So it's been a great process. We're in the infancy of this task force, but we already are seeing some areas where we can do some improvement, which is great. We do anticipate towards the end of the school year being able to put together a report for the Board of Education that we'll share out at a board meeting. Budget education, we have a star in our midst, Mr. Charles Johnson. There he is. We had 9 participants in Budget Ambassadors. This is a volunteer program. We had 2 3-hour sessions with over 200 slides of budget information. Again, it was very well received. We had a ton of great input, and we were able to use it to help make some of our budget decisions. Year 2 beta budget, we focused on transparency again. We highlighted a lot of our new spaces. This year's focus was on the music realm versus the athletic realm. Year 1 series, thanks to Mrs. Petrosino, she applied for an award, and so we got an award of excellence from Niaspora, which I think is their highest award. Is that correct? So it's pretty selective, and we're pretty happy to have received that award. Any questions? Thank you.
You've stunned us with your excellence.
Yeah, I'm sure. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Moving on to NISBA resolutions discussion item 5A.
I sent out a revised list of the resolutions because NISBA decided to reorganize their booklet. So rather than reprinting the booklet, they moved everything around a little bit to make it a little more efficient. We have a meeting on Saturday for Area 2 school districts to discuss it. So if you get a chance, go through it. There are a few to bring to your attention. There's one that's, remember what this does, it gives NISBA some direction, New York State School Board Association, some direction in its advocacy issues with the state legislature and the federal government. So these things basically are like their marching orders. There's a couple there that talk about a stipend for school board members. So it might be worth thinking about, you know. Most people know that outside of the big 5 districts, board members are not paid. There's nothing specific in the resolution. It just says it would be nice if board members got a little stipend. How much, I don't know. But, you know, it's going to be an interesting discussion because it comes down to, well, who pays? You know, so do we really want to add another cost onto local, you know, taxpayers? Nice idea, but, you know, the motivation behind it is to help alleviate costs for coming to board meetings and workshops and things like that. You know, there is an overhead to that. We have to recognize that. There's a couple more about gun safety. There were several that dealt with instructional purposes. One asked for the state to fully fund music and art education. Well, the state of New York doesn't fully fund anything. So I'm not sure what they really want. So that's what we do at the meeting on Saturday. We talk to our representatives from NISBA, say, you know what they really were after here, you know, so we can make a decision. We don't want to send NISBA off on chasing windmills, you know, and trying to advocate for something that has absolutely no chance, or something that's really, you know, unique to one particular district more than anything else. So if you get a chance, let me know. You can email me. Any comments or whatever, I'll come back at the next board meeting with the results of the Area 2, with my recommendations for each of the resolutions. And at that time, you know, basically your job is to let me know, yeah, go ahead, or no, I think you're crazy, do it this way. You know, because I'm really representing the board, it's not just my viewpoint. So, okay, any questions, anybody?
Nope, thank you very much.
Thank
So
you.
just to reiterate, you have a meeting this coming Saturday,
Correct.
and you're looking for feedback, preferably before Saturday. You like, because you need
If you
time to
can.
correlate
Right.
to prepare for the Saturday meeting.
But definitely before the next board meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Francis, one quick question. In the column D where it's on the spreadsheet you sent out where it says Y and N, obviously yes and no, but the local people have come up
Oh, that's the resolution committee. That's NISBA's committee. They're the ones who get the resolutions in, meet, and decide we're going to support this. All that does is make one less step at the annual meeting, because the resolution committee is saying yes, we like number 1. It just moved, and away we go. You don't have to have a vote for a second or anything else. So RC is the resolution committee. When it comes back, there'll be a column for Area 2, there'll be a column for Gage Twilight, and there'll be a column for the actual meeting that happens on October 17th. It's a Zoom meeting.
So you're looking for feedback of yes, I support, no, I don't support, or clarifications or
Clarification and
questions
questions,
about.
yes.
Because I did review those items and some of the language is kind of interesting, so let's take a look. Dr. Richards?
My apologies. Can you just, sunsetting, is it just a term used, meaning that the resolution has been on for a while?
Correct. The bylaws of NISBA say a resolution has a 5-year life.
Okay,
Once you get to the 5th year, then it comes back to the floor.
okay,
It's automatically to be considered again. Normally what that means, this is something, like for example, the first one is resolved to support changes to the tax cap levy. But we've been fighting with the state legislature and the governor's office for that since the day they put it in. So, do we really want to give up on that? If yes, then the group will vote it down. I don't think
Okay.
so. So that's all it means.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to legislative issues.
Basically, we're meeting the first Wednesday in October to talk about our agenda, to work with our local and federal representatives, also the Board of Regents. One of the things that's come up is the certification issues around early childhood education. Right now, it's broken down, birth, grade 2, it's 1 to 6, it's end of 12, it's all over the place. And we need to advocate with them to, let's just clean this up a little bit. Is there a way for teachers to get a birth to 6 certification, if you will? This will especially help with preschool. Our preschool partner has a hard time finding people sometimes. So we need to do something about that. Also, there's excuse me, the issue around the pay for retired teachers. There's an exemption this year, so as the gentleman mentioned, people can retire and then continue working in the job. It's sort of a double dipping situation, but the state recognized trying to find people to fill in at least to the end of this school year. We think it should be extended at least 1 more year. The problem's not going away. It's going to be helpful, but it's nice to be able to rely on experienced teachers. We have quite a few on the agenda, and it's losing that much experience is unfortunate, but we know it's going to happen anyhow. We were already seeing that, so at least this gives us a chance to get them. So that's another one with the state legislature. So if you have anything that comes to mind, you think needs to be discussed with either the Board of Regents or the state legislature or the federal government, like I said, we talked to Congressman Morelli about the free lunches and stuff, and he's working on that actually. So just let me know.
Any questions, comments, feedback? I do have one item, Frank. On the extending the retired teachers so that they can continue to fill in, I think that's a good idea, but I think we need to make the point to the legislatures that they have to work on the front door side of that to come up with, to your point of simplification of certification. I mean, we want to certify we have good teachers, but we don't want to make the barrier so high that we discourage people from coming in, and actually work on a program statewide to get new teachers that are in school teaching sooner, because good teachers, you don't, it's not like bake a cake after 4 years, you come out with a good teacher. It takes 4 years to bake the cake. It's a learned experience. They should get some teaching hours under their belt way sooner than the 4-year mark.
Yeah.
And potentially learn that or earn that bachelor's and master's while they're actually working, I think.
Yeah, that's an issue with the Board of Regents and the way it certifies teachers. We need to look at not only that, like pre-service, the kids coming through college, but also look at how do we encourage people in the private sector who have certain skills, chemists, the physicists, anybody, biologist who's been working there for 20 years and thinks, well, maybe I might want to teach. and yet we throw up all these roadblocks to become a teacher. And yet they have a great deal of experience, so can we streamline that as well? So that's a Board of Regents topic that we're going to discuss.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Dr. Richards?
I would love to add to that, Frank, and even if a conversation just when it comes to the certification of teachers and making sure that we equip, what does it look like as we're grooming the teachers, right? As they're going through their program and what they need in order to not only get into the profession, but want to stay. Because I think sometimes what we fail to realize is we think, oh, we're giving them, they're going through this great program, but from a program to the actual classroom is a huge difference. So I think there also needs to be some discussion as far as what do the programs entail, as far as the internships and the teaching experience while they're in the program, so they also get that guidance to help guide them through those real life situations and what maybe the revamping of that.
Right, and dealing with the pre-service education programs. Things have got to change to encourage people to stay, to get in and to stay, right? Okay. Oh, thank you.
Any other comments, feedback? All right, thank you very much. Moving on. Consent agenda approval. Before we begin with that, I would like to note that item 6I should read school year 2023-24. And with that, a motion to approve the consensus agenda. Motion, please. Ms. Unson and Dr. Richards. Questions or comments? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Moving on to motion to approve consensus items C through K. Motion, please. Ms. Keyes? Is that Ms. Littlewood? Questions or comments? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Ms. Parado, you have something to share.
Yes. Good evening, President Potensky, Vice President Moscato, Superintendent Daly, and members of the Board of Education. It is my pleasure tonight, as Mr. Majera alluded to, and as was just mentioned by Mr. Moscato, we have a number of retirees to acknowledge tonight amongst our instructional staff. The mid-year retirements are due to the fact that the state has waived the cap, which has allowed us to gain some additional notice from teachers to then go out and post sooner and hopefully be able to backfill those positions at the end of the year. So it is really a win-win situation. So having said that, we have 10 retirements to acknowledge this evening. All of these instructional staff have been with the district for a number of years, and all of them will continue through the end of this current school year to allow us that time to hopefully fill those positions. So without further ado, I would like to acknowledge Linda Wetherell, who has served the district for 16 years. She is a science teacher at the high school. I would also like to acknowledge Jack Majera, who spoke to you earlier. Mr. Majera has been a physical education teacher at Paul Road Elementary School for 20 years. Next, I would like to acknowledge Mr. Rick Rawl, who has been a science teacher at the middle school for 21 years. Sharon Tubbs, an elementary school teacher at Paul Road for 34 years. Judy Schnitzler, a special education teacher at the middle school for 31 years. Lisa Sanchez, world languages Spanish teacher at the middle school for 34 years. Dean Mizlevechek, science teacher at the high school for 31 years. Darren McBride, science teacher at the high school for 30 years. Janine Lyons, elementary teacher at Armstrong, Neil Armstrong for 31 years. And last but not least, Mary Ellen Donovan, world languages Italian teacher at the high school for 35 years. And for those of you who are wondering, that is a combined total of 283 years of service to Gates Chili. So big shoes to fill, lots of work to do, but we thank these teachers for partnering with us to allow us to have this extra notice, and we certainly wish them not only a great retirement, but success in completing this last year with us as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to action items. 7A, motion to approve the intermunicipal agreement for a school resource officer. Motion, please. Ms. Littlewood, Dr. Richards, questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Long.
I guess at this point, I'll abstain from voting.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Sans Mr. Long's abstention, it is unanimous. Ish. Moving on, motion to approve the high school music trip to Walt Disney World, April 20th to the 24th, 2023. Motion, please. Ms. Kais, Ms. Littlewood, questions or comments? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion to approve the external independent audit and extra classroom audit for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022, as presented by EFPR Group CPAs PLLC, period. Motion, please. Mr. Moscato, Mr. Long, questions or comments?
Real quick, at the workshop Jeff and I went to, they talked about the volume of reading some board members had to do. And this summary, the one-page summary of the external audit, basically cleans that up. You know, I mean, I have sat through 30-minute presentation, independent audit, and you can see board members' eyes glassing over if they even read it to begin with. So I think they're doing a good job of cutting through it and giving us the highlights. Basically, bottom line always comes down to, did the auditors find anything that was unusual or deficient in our financial systems? And they have not. You know, so, and we have money, we have cash reports, so I think they did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion to approve the 2022-2023 Board of Education goals and norms. Motion, please. Dr. Richards, Mr. Long, questions or comments? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to superintendent comments.
We've just wrapped up a great homecoming week. And it was a phenomenal time seeing all our kids and staff engaged. Each school and building participated in the dress-up days. One of the better ones was Country Western or Country Club. And so there were some interesting interpretations, especially here at the board office. Spartan spirit was evident and culminated with some great efforts on the fields, gyms, pools, and on campus. The pep rally Friday was outstanding. A lot of fun for the kids and for the staff. And then culminating with the games over the weekend and throughout the week. So each team had their own homecoming game. It was just great to see Spartan spirit everywhere. I was lucky enough again to be involved with the Hall of Fame, and I hosted a lunch with the inductees Friday in Principal Hamill's office. It was just really great to share our story as a district of where we are now and hear from them about how GC shaped them to be the successes they are today. They had an opportunity to speak to our senior class in the morning, each of them giving a speech, and it really resonated with each of the kids. And our students were able to hear from multiple perspectives what they too can do when they do leave us as graduates. And it was fun to induct them officially between the field hockey and football games on Friday night, all of them being great examples of the Spartan way. Last week was filled with open house and meet the teacher nights. We had some of the best attended nights since I've been here. The running joke about me saying that is, for 2 years we really couldn't do them, so it's even better now. But the lifting of the restrictions on gathering has led to much better participation, and it was nice to see parents and families engaged with our staff. And don't forget, there's one more coming up next week on the 5th for grades 7 and 8. Meet the staff night at the middle school, and it starts at 6:30. This weekend, If you're looking for some family fun, the Apple Dumpling Festival is at Florence Brasser from 12 to 4 on Saturday. And then if you do have a student that's getting ready and thinking about college, one of the better presentations given at the high school is our high school financial aid night. That'll also be on October 5th at 7 p.m. in the high school mezzanine. It's a great opportunity for families to learn about the process to complete the FAFSA forms for financial aid. And then what we're really excited about, we've been building towards, is our October 7th conference day. Our theme this year is United in Our Journey to Equity. It starts off with a riveting superintendent's message and then leads into our keynote speaker where we have a Board of Regents regent, Ruth Turner, who will be speaking to our staff. And then we'll be breaking out into building-based time. Every one of our employees will have specific trainings during the day and building-based time at the end of the day for grade level department professional work. And so we're real excited to get together as a staff and learn together and then provide each of them, of our employees, with what they need as we go forward for the rest of the year. Also, we received in the mail recently some awards from NYSBA. And so we have a couple board members that have earned certificates. So the New York State School Boards Association's recognition program is designed to acknowledge those school board members who strive to continually expand their governance knowledge and skills. NYSBA's recognition program is comprised of 4 achievement levels, which are reached by accumulating points for participating in various NYSBA training activities, including state-mandated training workshops, board officers academy, legal workshops, convention-related events, or custom board retreats. Our records indicate that 1 or more members of your district's Board of Education have earned one of our Board Achievement Awards. Enclosed, you'll find a copy. Our 2 award winners are Mrs. Catherine Coffey. Well, actually, it's 3. I should learn to feel for them. Mrs. Andrea Hinchey-Hunson and Mrs. Carrie Kimes. And we received some great news today. We had our equity team leaders, who are Mr. Olin, Mr. DeJong, Dr. Vasquez, and Mrs. Petrosino, and been approved to present on our DEI journey at the National School Board Association Convention in April. It's a huge honor to be one of the people chosen to speak in one of the groups. And again, the title of our presentation is Belonging Bound, Making Room for Everyone on the Road to Equity. We're extremely proud of that group. They've been recently published, as well as they'll be presenting at the SANES Convention, which is the Administrators of New York State, in October. So congratulations to them as they continue to share the great journey that our district's going on together with our staff and students in our community. And lastly, what I'd like to add in is a question about why there were no meetings on the calendar. Those meetings are not set until February of this year. So when that calendar is published in the summer, we don't know what next summer's meetings are going to be. So that's why they're not included on the calendar that comes out at the beginning of September, just for some clarification. All right, sir, that is my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to motion to adjourn. Motion, please. Mr. Long, Dr. Richards. All in favor? Vote is unanimous. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.